Due to misrepresentations by some people who live in my neighborhood, Barrio Playa Anasco, and by the dishonest news media, I decided to make this video to show that I did not have any neighbors that were impacted by my cat rescue. Anasco is a small town on the west coast of Puerto Rico. Barrio Playa, you can see here on the screen, has a dense population when you first enter the neighborhood, with many houses packed into a single area. But, as you see here, once you drive past that part of the neighborhood, you enter an area with a lot of rural, vacant property and farmland. My house is the little red dot, surrounded on all sides by vacant land and farmland. None of these complaining neighbors were anywhere near me. They live a substantial distance down the road, with the nearest person being over 120 meters from me. This was my beautiful house when I first moved to Puerto Rico, before I fenced the yard and used the area under the house for an animal rescue. My house is the newest house in the neighborhood, built in 2018 after Hurricane Maria. This house is my only neighbor. I almost did not buy my house because I did not want to look at this every day. This is a boarded up, vacant, rundown house that was destroyed during Hurricane Maria in 2017 and has not been fixed up or lived in since. This is the neighbor to the right of me, which is another empty, vacant piece of land with an abandoned shell of a house that nobody has lived in since at least Hurricane Maria. The stray dogs in the neighborhood like to go here and take shelter. People also tie up their horses on this property. As you can see, this house is vacant, abandoned, and falling apart. And it's full of horse poop because the horses that are randomly wandering through the neighborhood also take shelter in this house. Here's some large piles of horse poop near my house. I don't own horses, but you can see such feces scattered around the whole neighborhood. Here's more of the feral and stray dogs coming to my house. And here's where the news said I had over 80 cats in my house, which is not true. Here's the area under my house that I converted to an animal rescue for my cats. You can see it's clean, it's organized. The cat cages are very large. They're actually dog cages for the size of a German Shepherd or Great Dane. You could easily accommodate 3 cats without problems. Notice how they're stacked too high. We have all of our food and supplies neatly organized and off the floor with fans blowing on the cats. Once again, that's my house on top and the rundown house below me, all surrounded by vacant land and farmland. The closest actual neighbor that I had was over 120 meters away, as you can see in this picture. Across the street is hundreds of acres of farmland. Here's a picture of some of the beautiful horses that you could see across the street. Unfortunately, most of the rest of the neighborhood is not so beautiful. There are run-down, abandoned houses all over the place. Nobody's taking care of them. They're falling down. There's trash everywhere. Here's a dump site not far at all from my house with a burned out mattress, some sort of animal carcass, and trash everywhere. Up and down the streets is trash. People just throw it right out their car windows, even though trash pickup is free. Now back to the subject of my neighbors. Here's messages from my only real neighbor, the people that own the abandoned, boarded up eyesore of a house that I lived right next door to. This guy, Elvin, is the owner's son, and he would go there to cut the yard every 2 to 4 months. It was usually overgrown. But he would check in on me, and I would watch their house for them because they were concerned that squatters or illegal immigrants could break into the house, and then it's a real hassle to try to get those people out. So I talked to him any of the 4 times that I was burglarized and the problems I was having with these other neighbors, and updating him on the status of the hurricane, and the property got flooded after that. But no, the one true neighbor I had was friendly, and we had 0 problems. We actually helped each other out and had a great relationship. Unfortunately, not everybody in the neighborhood was so kind or welcoming. Maria de Los Angeles Gonzalez started to harass me in May of 2022. She called the health department, she called the police, and in October she filed a lawsuit against me to try to force me to get rid of my cats and shut down my rescue. I was actually in shock when I got served with this lawsuit because I had no idea who Maria de Los Angeles Gonzalez even was. I had never met her, she'd never spoken to me, and I just could not fathom that someone I'd never met in my whole life and never had a conversation with and was not aware of any issues with took the drastic step of suing me as their first introduction to address whatever her concerns might have been. As a result of Maria filing this lawsuit against me, I got a lawyer and I went to court to defend the lawsuit. And of course she lost, because you cannot sue some random person in your neighborhood to try to make them get rid of their animals. But do you think that stopped Maria? Of course not. She is obsessed with me. So after she lost the court case, she came back to the neighborhood and told the whole neighborhood that she won the court case and that I was ordered to get rid of all of my cats. Of course, this is not true, but her friends in the neighborhood believed her, and so then, from then on out, these people were assuming that I was illegally violating a court order by continuing to operate my rescue. When supporters of my rescue found out what Maria had done, several of them left her negative reviews for her Airbnb. These negative reviews were well deserved, given her conduct. Instead of taking these reviews to heart and reconsidering her actions, she and her husband doubled down. You can see here, Roberto on Facebook is calling me out and saying that I have a filthy house and they're sick of it and that they won in court and that I was ordered to get rid of the cats, and it's all lies. We have the transcript from the court hearing, and I'll be posting it in a separate video. Then, to add insult to injury, Roberto goes and claims that all the people leaving him negative reviews are actually me with a fake profile, as if my rescue does not have 7,000 supporters, which you can check on our Facebook page. We're an excellent rescue, and everybody who has ever been to my house and my rescue will tell you it's clean, there's no smell, the cats are well cared for, and there's really no concern. And back to this topic, there are no neighbors either. So this is all contrived to try to get me out of the neighborhood. So Maria lost her court case against me in November, and then in January of 2023, the Department of Health notified Maria by email, as you can see on the screen, that her complaints against me to the health department had been investigated and the case against me was closed. Do you think Maria took this to be the end of things? No, of course not. After losing her court case, having the Department of Health investigate me, find nothing, and close the case, having called every animal welfare agency in the United States, including PETA, having repeatedly called the Anasco Police, having tried to turn all the neighbors against me, just wasn't enough for her. So what's her next move? Now her next move was to start calling the media, start calling the news channels. Who would ever think that any real news channel would pay any attention to this old lady with nothing better to do than to harass a cat rescuer in her neighborhood and not let go after losing a court case, after having the health department investigate and find nothing wrong? Oh, but she found the right reporter, Melissa Correa from TeleOnce News Channel 11, a channel that I've been repeatedly told is anti-American. This can easily be seen in the series of stories that Melissa Correa did about me and my rescue. Not once in her 3-month-long supposed investigation into my animal rescue and my life did she ever reach out to speak with me. Not once did she talk to any of the people associated with my rescue. Not once did she mention all the positive reviews that we have on Facebook, nor did she ever mention that I was flying cats off the island of Puerto Rico 3 times a week to loving adopters and no-kill rescues in the United States. Her series of stories were so skewed that it shows a complete lack of journalistic integrity. But do you know what Melissa Correa pointed out repeatedly in all of her stories? That I'm a North American. You got to watch out for those North American women. They're not from here. So on the first week of June 2023, Melissa Correa came to my neighborhood and she met with Maria and her little group of friends. Maria had already prepared by sending out this message to the entire neighborhood, inviting them to come protest at my house at 11 o'clock at June 6th with Melissa Correa. And as you see, here's Melissa outside my house, crowing at my front door, knowing full well that I'm not home, but putting on a show for the cameras, as she is prone to do. So now you have a pretty good idea about who one of my neighbors is, Maria de Los Angeles Gonzalez, but who are these other people who went on the news as supposed neighbors to slander me and my rescue? Well, this next lady, Trinidad Olivares, is the sister of Maria de Los Angeles Gonzalez. Don't you think this would be prudent for Melissa Correa of TeleOnce News Channel to point out, instead of portraying her as an independent, unbiased witness? No, it's never pointed out that it's the sister of Maria. But let's listen to this interview with Trinidad, because it's my favorite interview of all of them. If you don't understand Spanish, I'll tell you what she's saying. She's saying that ever since Erica moved to the neighborhood, mysterious things have been happening. Not just with the cats, but also with the dogs. Several neighbors have had their dogs go missing since Erica got to the neighborhood. And it's all just very mysterious. What kind of journalistic investigative reporting is this? I say it's not, and it's clearly a witch hunt, because what else is the purpose of this 30-second interview with this neighbor bizarrely ranting about how mysterious things have been occurring since I moved to the neighborhood? Is that facts? Is that evidence? What is she trying to prove? That I'm a witch? What does that got to do with anything? I haven't killed or kidnapped anybody's dogs. Again, where's the journalistic integrity? And what's the point of this story other than to just slander me as a rescuer without ever even talking to me? Just casting aspersions in front of millions of people. The other thing that's very rich about Maria de Los Angeles Gonzalez and her friends and family slandering me and attacking me is their failure to mention that they don't follow any laws. And they're ranting about me being an environmental hazard. Look at this. Here's the beautiful beach behind my house that also runs down the road and is behind the house of the Airbnb resort of Maria and Roberto Gonzalez. Notice the thick, lush foliage, the vegetation, the trees and plants that grow in between the sand and the residential properties. It's very thick, it's protected, it's public, and it does not belong to Maria Gonzalez. However, notice how in between the beach and her resort property, all vegetation has been cleared. All trees are cut, all the nice thick vegetation is gone, and she has a nicely groomed golf green, miraculously right in between the sand and her resort, ensuring that her guests have an unobstructed view of the ocean, while also destroying critical habitat that's protected for nesting leatherback turtles, protecting vegetation that's needed to prevent erosion of the beaches. And you think she keeps that nicely manicured golf green nice and trim by using only natural means? Absolutely not. She's committing a crime. The EPA needs to be notified. She's destroying endangered turtle habitat. She's destroying public property, destroying the environment, and yet she wants to pick on a cat rescuer who's taking cats off the streets of the neighborhood, getting them spayed and neutered and flying them to the United States at no expense to her. But I'm the environmental problem here. Also notice the video clips of her resort blasting music late into the night illegally, using strobe lights that are also facing the protected nesting sea turtle sites, and lighting off fireworks. Not little fireworks, not little sparklers, major explosive that are expressly illegal in Puerto Rico. When reported to the authorities, do you think they did anything? No, they've not done anything. Of course not. Maybe it'll take more people to start calling in reports to actually take some action. But I digress. Back to the rest of the neighbors. The next two are Janine Walker and her husband, David Walker. They live across the street from Maria, and they're good friends with her. They turned on me once they found out about the supporters of my rescue who had left negative reviews on Maria's resort Facebook page after she sued me and lost and continued her campaign of harassment. I had never had any negative dealings with Janine or David Walker. In fact, I didn't even know who they were. Apparently, I'd met Janine when I was brand new to the neighborhood, 3 days after I'd had a severe car accident and gotten a concussion, and she'd offered to take me to the hospital to have an MRI. I declined and was able to take myself to get the MRI, and I never really thought of her again. But apparently she's been harboring some resentment and says I'm a racist and I don't like her because she's Hispanic, and all sorts of other nonsense. But what it comes down to is, as she admits in these messages that she posted publicly on Facebook attacking me about some puppies that had dug a hole under my fence that I was trying to recapture, now, long after the fact that she's supposedly upset with me, she admits that it's really just because that some of my supporters left negative reviews for her buddy Maria, and now that's why she's coming after me. And her husband, too. Notice I have pictures of him repeatedly driving past my house and a voicemail from the contractor that I'd hired to build my 6-foot-tall privacy fence, which happened just after Maria lost her court case. So here's pictures and the voicemail from my contractor as David Walker drives back and forth in front of my house in his black SUV like a psychopath. He had my fence guy so freaked out that he called me to come home because he wanted to know who this crazy guy is that keeps driving back and forth in front of my house taking pictures and videos. This was in November of 2022, right after Maria had lost her court case to me and came back and told the whole neighborhood that she won and that I was the one breaking the law by continuing to operate my rescue, supposedly in violation of the court order on the case that she had actually lost. Okay, on to the next neighbor that's complaining. Zaida Gomez, another person who I'd never met in my life. And she actually lives in the opposite direction near the more crowded part of the neighborhood, at least half a mile away. Zaida is another anti-American Puerto Rican, as you can see in her message there, complaining about the English version of Spanish that the white people speak in Rincon. It's just so horrible that she had to even listen to it. But in March of 2023, when I encountered her on Facebook, she'd made a post in one of the neighborhood groups where we live complaining that someone had trapped one of her many outdoor cats and supposedly brought it to be spayed or neutered when the cat had already been spayed or neutered, and she was pitching a fit and demanding that anybody that was going around doing TNR first thoroughly inspect the cat and make sure it's in a full heat cycle before you dare trap it and get it spayed or neutered. Okay? So people in the neighborhood immediately start pointing to the gringa. It's that Erica. She had to be the one that took your cat. She's always taking everybody's pets around here. Well, no. So she messaged me, and I told her I had no idea what she was talking about. I had not trapped any of her cats. I hadn't trapped any cats in the neighborhood in weeks at that point. I was backed up on my own cats that needed spay-neuter appointments. And I told her that I had nothing to do with her cat, and that it's kind of bizarre and ridiculous to insist that for people who are doing TNR, trap, neuter, release of stray animals, that you would expect that someone would actually stand around and wait to observe a female cat go into a full heat cycle before bringing it to get spayed or neutered. I told her this is ridiculous. In a place like Puerto Rico with 1 million stray animals on the street, much less anywhere else, nobody that's doing trap, neuter, release to sterilize stray animals is holding on to the animal for weeks or months to see if it goes into heat. That's just idiotic, stupid. It doesn't happen. It's just nuts. So I tell her this, and then she goes off on me like I'm the crazy person. So long story short, I tell her I didn't trap your cat. I didn't bring your cat to get spayed or neutered. And you're the problem, letting all your outdoor cats run loose while I'm getting blamed for every stray cat in the neighborhood. And yet her friends, Maria de Los Angeles Gonzalez, Yenny and Walker, who are both highly allergic to cats and complain how my cats are supposedly going into their yards and pooping and causing allergies and ruining their life in every manner possible. But they got no problem with their buddy Zaida letting her entire population of cats just roam the streets 24/7. But I'm the problem. Okay, now finally on to the last neighbor. Thank you for sticking with me. This is a neighbor who is also not really a neighbor, Dr. Edison Osorio. He owns a large resort at the very end of our neighborhood, again, more than half mile away from me. And here he is ranting and raving about how my house is an environmental health hazard. It's a human health hazard, just a complete hazard. Well, how do I know this guy? I know him because here he is in a video clip, one of the many video clips I have of him, irresponsibly and illegally jogging past my house with his vicious Rottweiler mix off a leash. Many times this dog dug under or went over my fence and mauled my cats. I repeatedly told this guy to get your dog on a leash. He didn't care. You can see in the video, his dog was off leash and he made absolutely no effort or no gesture to come get the dog. Here's another clip. The dog's at my gate, at my car, trying to get into my fence, trying to attack my cats, as he's done on dozens of occasions. This dog, along with the other stray and feral dogs in the neighborhood that would dig under my fence and attack my cats, are one of the main reasons that I spent $15,000 to put up that wooden privacy fence. And again, here he is, ranting and raving on the news more than a year after these videos were taken, after I've been repeatedly screaming at him to get his dog under control, get it on a leash. And this video here is actually the day of Hurricane Fiona. Literally, the hurricane is closing in. I'm outside busting my butt to get all my cats up inside the house, all the cages inside, doing everything I can to prepare for the hurricane. Well, his dog had come on my property, chased this poor cat here named Neil, attacked him. That's his broken tooth sticking out of his mouth. That's a puncture wound on his backside, where I had to run across the street into the farmland, go under the barbed wire fence, Well, this guy just stood on the road laughing and watching as his dog mauled my cat for several minutes, the time it took me to run out of my house, down the stairs, out the gate, and across the street. Ultimately, after $1,000 in various surgeries, the cat died. What's this? This little peace symbol? He's on the news ranting about wanting peace? Taino. That's the name of his dog. How did I get his dog tag off of his dog, you might wonder? It was in my yard from one of the many times that his dog dug under my fence to attack my cats. Oh, so I looked up the phone number on the dog tag. Who does it come to? Dr. Edison Osorio, MD. And now what do we have here? Once again, his dog completely off leash. This time, doctor is nowhere to be seen. I stood here and filmed his dog running loose through the neighborhood, coming back to my house for the millionth time, once again wanting to attack and kill my cats. The minute I start to walk towards the dog, it runs backwards a little bit, but it really doesn't want to go home because it wants to kill more of my cats. How many times do I have to call this guy, report this guy, yell at this guy to get his vicious cat-killing dog under control? And so, friends, judge for yourself. These are the neighbors, supposed neighbors, not even real neighbors, who went on the news on TeleOnce with Melissa Correa. They did these interviews in June of 2023, what ultimately aired at the end of August 2023, calling me an animal abuser. But if Melissa Correa had actually investigated, she may have seen that all these people had ulterior motives to be against me. And for what? I moved here to Barrio Playa Anasco. Dreams of having peace. Amazing how everybody in this video says they want peace. I bought a beautiful house built in 2018. Hurricane-proof, earthquake-proof steps from a beautiful beach. Kept to myself, rescued animals, didn't want conflict with anybody. You know, simply just living my life, minding my business, and rescuing cats. I didn't even know these people. I didn't know they were getting together to slander me and come up with a plan to drive me out of the neighborhood. I don't play loud music. I don't have parties. I live by myself. I keep to myself. I'm quiet. I rescue cats. I take them to the vet. I spend all day caring for them, all day cleaning up after them. And then when they're ready, I fly them to adopters and no-kill rescues in the United States. And this is how they treat me. I'm not here looking for sympathy or for anyone to feel sorry for me. All I ask is that you evaluate the facts and the evidence behind this case, behind the false news stories, behind the illegal police raid where they kick down my door in the dead of night, take all my cats and everything I own. And for what? Because these neighbors, you've seen the facts. Do you consider them neutral and reliable witnesses providing evidence that I'm an animal abuser? Or do you see them for who they are with their own motives? Think about it. It's about time somebody does.